Thanks to the Into the Spider-Verse Blu-ray I stole from Redbox a few years ago, I have the opportunity to watch something I haven't watched yet, but has been on my radar, and that is the alternate universe mode of Into the Spider-Verse, which is a version of the movie which includes new characters, scenes, and an almost entirely different narrative. And thanks to the remaining hype I still have from Across the Spider-Verse, I finally want to watch this cut and review it, and talk about it, because believe me, this is a completely different experience. I wasn't exaggerating in the thumbnail at all, so let's jump in and talk about it. But before we jump in, let's talk about our sponsor, NordVPN. I'm just kidding, I don't have any sponsors. The movie starts the exact same and plays out exactly as you remember it would be. And that is, at least if you haven't seen it like 1,000 times like me. But this only lasts like 8 or so minutes before we see the introduction of Geny Lee, which if you don't know, is the best friend of Miles Morales. So that means this version is more similar to the original 1610 Ultimate Comics, since Geny plays a pretty big part in this movie, and is probably the biggest change in Alternate Universe mode. I'm glad he's not really there in the final cut, because Miles already having a close friend defeats the whole purpose of him being alienated from Vision's Academy, and Geny's role is entirely useless. All it does is slow down the pace, and I mean really slows it down. For example, I really prefer Miles to be bit by the spider in the subway, instead of delaying it to the next scene, where Miles and Geny slap it off of each other while a copyrighted song plays. And this happens a lot in the alternate universe cut. I'm pretty sure these scenes wouldn't be the way they are if it was in the finished movie, but they just overcomplicate everything, really. You don't need Geny, and I think the writers knew that in the finished movie, because you don't need someone to help Miles be Spider-Man in the first act, then just not exist at all when Peter B replaces him. So it was the right call when there's literally no point to these scenes of training to be Spider-Man, when Miles learns it with Peter B while still furthering the plot. Speaking of Peter B, after he's introduced, there really is not that much new stuff added, and the movie could go on for a long time without showing that many storyboards. It's not as stuffed as before with storyboards, probably because Geny does not exist anymore after Peter B is introduced. There is some weird dream sequences that have Miles dreaming about the Collider going off and destroying Brooklyn. I'm really glad they turned it off though, because we already have tension of turning the Collider off, so it doesn't really add any fear, and nothing even close to what is shown in these dreams happens, and these dreams only happen twice in the beginning of the movie, so the audience would easily forget it. We actually have one scene between Miles' dad and Uncle Aaron. It's generally pointless, but I'm surprised that this is their only interaction. I think Miles' dad calling him during the hide montage is better, as it's simpler, quicker, and more realistic to leave a voicemail instead of just straight up confronting him. There's one scene that I wish so damn bad was still in the movie, and that is a slow talk with Miles and Peter B. Not only is it so important to the most pivotal scene in the movie, it's also important to Across the Spider-Verse, as it makes Miles' philosophy. I mean, just take a look at this.
There's your problem right there. You can't think about saving the whole world. You have to think about saving one person, Miles. You just think about someone you love.
How could that not be better foreshadowing to the entire crux of what the second movie was built on? I would also say moments like this were more needed. I mean, sure, we have some sincere scenes between Miles and Peter B, but why cut the scene out when it literally motivates Miles to have the leap of faith? I don't think this disrupts the pacing either. What is wrong with having a slow-paced scene? I do think that it does kind of undermine and contradict the scene after that with the hide montage, and Miles slowly walking through New York aimlessly while being all sad boy hours and stuff, so I kind of could see why it was cut, but I really saw the potential here. So you'd probably be wondering if Peter B said it was a leap of faith to Miles again, and the answer is no. In this version, he says to Miles that he doesn't have to be Spider-Man anymore, which comes off as a little cold, but I think it was a great way to motivate Miles even more, because it brings him lower and everything seems bleaker than it did before. And that's why it hits so hard when he fights back, and we get the iconic leap of faith scene. But surprisingly, the leap of faith scene is completely different from the original movie, and there's a slight problem with it. Right in the middle of his awesome montage, Miles crashes through a truck and the music stops instantly. It's good in like a symbolic way, I guess, showing how much Miles has to grow, but nothing like this happens again. Miles is just being a badass, so I think this just takes away the best moment in the movie. Well, that's all I wanted to talk about for this video. It might have seemed pretty short, I know. I talked about all the big things, but didn't talk about other things, so if you want to see what else is different, you should. I don't see many videos about this, so I hope this intrigued you to check it out on the Blu-ray. Okay, don't tell anyone I told you this, but I left a playlist in the description showing all the deleted scenes, or if you just want a quick glance at it, you could check it out, so look at that playlist in the description. And if you like me rambling about Miles Morales, I'm going to be releasing a super long video. I review every Miles Morales comic in existence, so subscribe for that because it'll come out in the next few weeks. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in another mediocre video.